Welcome everyone. My name is Tamara Neninger and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm the marketing assistant here at DSD and have been reaching out to you leading up to today's webinar. We're super excited to have you here for our session on 3 powerful Sage 100 tools: Crystal Reports, Paperless Office, and Sage Intelligence. Joining us today is 3 of our Sage 100 senior consultants, Jim, Steve Engman, and Steve Pavel. As your moderator, I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the session, so please feel free to interact with us or submit any questions. Before we begin, just a final reminder, if you do need to step away, the session is being recorded and will be available to you within the next 24 hours. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Tamara. All right, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. I'm here to talk about an actual project that I built for a customer. Their challenge was they wanted to track salesperson budgets by product line in Sage, and they had built sort of a crude Crystal report where they were actually entering the budget numbers as text and trying to do math with those fields in Crystal, and it's kind of kludgy, to use a very technical term. So I helped them build a better process, and I'm going to kind of walk through what we did in Sage and then what we did in Crystal to make this all work. So part of this involves setting up GL statistical accounts, and then we're going to do a little bit of budgeting. Just going to kind of show you where the data elements are at, but really the key of this is going to be the Crystal report itself that I'll show off towards the end of this once I get through kind of the building blocks. So tomorrow, if you wouldn't mind, can you go ahead and let me share screen? Thank you. Okay, so let me go ahead and share this screen. This is my Sage 100 2025 instance, and I've got a couple of tasks open I'm going to walk through real quick, just to kind of explain what we did. So if you've never worked with statistical accounts before, you have to start by creating an account group. This is GL account group maintenance. I carved out a section towards the end of my chart of accounts in the 975 section. I called it sales reps, and I made it non-financials. That allows me to track budget information, or actually even post quote unquote transactions to show actuals versus budget. But the actuals in my report are actually going to be coming from AR invoice history. And then the budget's coming from GL. I'll show that off in a minute here. So step 1 is account groups. So we have a non-financial group set up there. Step 2 is roll-up codes. So if you've never worked with roll-up codes, a roll-up code is a way you can kind of associate a GL with a dimension, if you will. In this case, the roll-up code of the dimension is the sales rep. So what I did in Sage is I set up a roll-up code called sales rep code, and I put in, these are actually AR division numbers and sales rep numbers. So these match. If you go into AR, you go to setup, you go to sales reps, or the salespersons. These are the salesperson numbers, including divisions. So that's part of how the data gets linked in Crystal right there. And then the third piece of the puzzle in Sage is account maintenance itself. So I set up a GL account for each of my sales reps. We've got Jim Kentley. This is rep, account number doesn't really matter. The key is the sales rep code here. This code is how we're going to link things to Crystal. Okay, so this is the Jim Kentley quote unquote account. And if I go to budget here, what I did was I set up a different budget for each kind of product line. So we've got, this is the ABC demo data. So there's a CA product line and a DC product line and an FDA, et cetera. These are all those different product lines. And I put in dollar amounts so that we have numbers over in Crystal reports to pull the data from. Again, this is kind of trying to mirror, if I go to AR and I go to setup, we go to the salesperson maintenance. I'm trying to do here basically is just make this table available as roll-up codes. Go back to roll-up codes real quick. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Close that screen. We'll get to Crystal here in a minute. Just want to make sure everybody kind of understands how the data is linked inside of Sage a little better. So, but once again, these roll-up codes are actually sales reps. Right there. Okay. And the budgets, if I go to GL options, budgets are basically the same as the product lines in inventory, right? So we go to inventory, we go to setup, we go product line maintenance. I didn't do all of the product lines, maybe I did, but they're not all on Crystal because I just did like 3 of them. But conceptually, if you kind of compare this, so the budget codes, C and A matches, DC matches, FD and A, those are exact matches of the product line. That's how we link the data in Crystal, okay? Budgets and statistical GL accounts. Okay, let's go over into Crystal and I'm going to kind of show you what the report does. So I've got 2 copies of it. This one is kind of the one you would present to the customer. This is the one that's polished and ready to display or export to Excel or whatever. I'm going to hit F5. And it's going to ask me for a year and a period. I'm just going to go ahead and OK that. And it brings in data. So if we take a look at this, what this data is here, I'm going to go to Designer and kind of walk through it. But this is grouped on the sales rep. So if we look at the tables in Crystal here, I've got AR invoice history header and detail and AR salesperson all joined together. We can look at that as well. Joining detail to header by the invoice number and the header sequence number, and then we're joining header to the salesperson based on the salesperson division and salesperson number, the key fields there. So it's just a pretty straightforward report. It's so far that's designed to pull and gather data by sales rep. So I inserted a group. I like to do formulas in my groups, and this group sales rep is simply concatenating the salesperson division number, the dash, and the salesperson number. So that's our group. And it's going to print one for each salesperson. I've got their name in there. And then over here, I've got budget information. So this is a running total. This is a running total. I'm pulling the AR invoice history extension amounts from each line of each invoice. And the criteria I'm using is basically saying, hey, make sure the product line is CNA, because this is the column for my CNA product line, okay? So we're adding up all the extensions as long as the product line equals CA. And we're saying, let's reset it, or let's redo it every time the group changes. That's why we go to run this, it adds up. There's 3590 for Jim Kentley in March. And then if we go to the next sales rep, we look up Shelley Westland, we should see that she has 320.85 for CNA. So, all right, now back to Crystal for a minute. So over here, what I'm doing is I've got a shared formula. So I used a subreport, and I'm passing data from the subreport into the main report, and that data that I'm passing is adding up the GL budget information, okay? So here, this formula is basically like a container that's saying, go grab that formula. I did a shared number error called C and A, and in the other report that I'll show off in a minute. And this is just basically saying, hey, as you're calculating all this stuff, go ahead and take that C and A number and print it here. So it's basically displaying what's in this the subreport right up here. You can hardly see. I've got another copy of the report where I blew up the subreport so we can look at it better. I'll switch to that one in a minute. So anyway, once I have that number printed and I've got that number printed, this number, this column here, the difference is just math. It's just taking those 2 fields that I already developed or formulas and just doing the math there to give us a difference, okay? So the magic's really happening in the subreport behind the scenes. I'm going to switch over to the one that's a different copy of this report that's just easier to look at the subreport. Okay, so we're going to go to this one that's called expanded here. And in this one, I've got the group header 1A kind of exploded a little bit more. If I were to preview this one, you would see a lot more gap between things, and you'd see weird numbers above the totals you want to show to the customer, because the subreport is actually calculating and running at the same time to be able to deliver the numbers below it. So if you ever work with a subreport, you have to put the subreport above the section you're trying to do your math in, because the subreport has to calculate its value and be able to send it to the next section so that you have that number available to work with to do the math on. All right. How we're linking this report, I've got the sales rep number. That's that concatenated division number plus salesperson rep code, and that's being linked to the roll-up code, right? So we've got the GL accounts that have the roll-up codes in there, and that's how it's finding it. It's saying, hey, let's go use the rep number from our AR transactions and go look at the GL roll-up code that matches that. And then in here, I'm also passing in period and year. Those are just like 20, 25, and 03 or whatever the period and year are as string values. And then that's how it's doing the report selection too. I should have shown you that too. Sorry, let me go back there for a second. This is in change report links. So I'm actually selecting data. I got that box checked in the roll-up code, in the year, and in the period. So when I go to run the report, it already knows it's period 3 and it's year 2025 or whatever year it is. It might be 2026, but it doesn't really matter. It's actually linking the data. It is also possible to set up the subreport differently, to not link in the period and year, and then you can feed those arguments in downstream to get calculations. That's helpful if, for example, you wanted to show multiple fiscal periods on the same subreport. You wouldn't want to link year and period like that, because then you're locking yourself into that specific year and period for the entire report. There's ways to not send that data by unchecking that box, and that would cause the report to behave differently. Okay. In the subreport itself, these are basically just running totals. So if I go here, running totals, I've got one for CNA, and all this is doing is it's saying, okay, go get the budget, GL period budget detail amount, give me the debits, and do that where my budget code is equal to CNA. So the subreport is just pulling GL period budget detail. That's where the budget numbers are stored that we entered in earlier at the GL account level. And it's got the GL account linked in there, so I can translate the account key into the account number. That's all that's really sitting there for. And those are just linked on the GL account key. If we look at the database in here, the link right there between the record, the table with the records, the most records goes on the left. That's an equal join on the key, which is in fact the account key there. And then that allows us to basically summarize for each sales rep the grand total. I don't need to do this by sales rep in this section here. This is all report footer, because the report itself fires off every time the group changes. The subreport's going to change. So all we need is one set of totals, and that's here in the report footer. So again, we're just adding up CNA where the product line, I'm sorry, the budget code is equal to CNA, and the budget code translates to a product line. And then I've got another one for DC, and I've got another, actually just did CA and DC on the subreport. And then these guys, these are the shared formulas. You have to put this in there as well to be able to share the data between the subreport and the main report. And how this looks, it's basically a 3-line sentence, and it says, while printing records, which means while you're doing all the calculations, semicolon means go to the next line. Shared number variable, we're declaring a shared number variable. We're going to call it C underscore and underscore A. And it's defined and equal to that running total right there, that CNA, okay? And then I just do another semicolon, and then we go another line. C and A just means give us that value. So if we were to run this report and preview it, we should see that same number here. We should see that same number here. And most importantly, when we go to down here, that number gets passed down into here. So that 350 is what's being calculated from the subreport, and it's sending it down here to that 350. And that 350 minus that 320 is that difference right there. So this is AR invoice history right there. This is GL budget detail coming from that subreport right there. And this is the math doing the difference between the two, just adding and subtracting those two. That's really the concept behind the report, was just linking the budget codes to, I'm sorry, let me back up. Linking the roll-up codes in GL to the sales rep code, so we can link the GL account to the sales rep information in AR invoice history header and detail. Then we're just adding up and doing math to summarize sales by product line by sales rep, and then compare that to the GL budget total, which calculates in the subreport above it, and then presents the math to the customer at the end like that. This is just with the subreport hidden or minimized so that it's still executing, but you can't really see it. So it's just easier to read report or export. That is my presentation, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jim. Go back and share my screen. And so now we move on to Sage 100 Paperless Office.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Steve Engman, and I'm a senior Sage 100 consultant here at DSD as well. And what Jim showed you was some great stuff on how powerful Sage 100 and Crystal can be with statistical accounts. That a lot of people don't know that Sage can have statistical accounts in the general ledger, and how to link all of that to do some pretty sophisticated types of reports. What I'm going to share with you is a little less complicated probably, And clients through the years have said, hey, how do I simplify my process to be more efficient, keep customers better informed, communicate with the accounting department and the people placing orders, get them the tracking numbers, and do all of that as quickly as possible without creating a lot of extra work and having to save documents and email documents manually. So what I wanted to cover with you in Paperless Office is just to show you how you can have a sales order confirmation go out to the person that's actually placing the order, then have the invoice emailed to the accounts payable department for your customer, and at the same time get those tracking numbers emailed out to the person that placed that order. So with that, I'm going to jump right into the Sage 100 demo and switch over to my screens.
Yes, let me share your screen.
All right, hopefully everyone can see my Sage 100 install.
Yes.
And first thing, okay, excellent. First thing I'm going to do is to go into customer maintenance. And again, this is something that is available to everyone that has Sage 100. Paperless Office comes with Sage 100, and you can set this up. So I'm going to pick my first customer here. And what I typically like to do is this main customer then is my accounts payable department, or where I send my invoices to. It's the main company contact. And I'm going to put my email address on the header screen here, and I called it appropriately accounting@gmail.com. So that's going to be the accounts payable person I'm going to send this invoice to. And then with Sage 100, if you're using the sales order module, you have the option of setting up multiple ship to addresses. So if I go into a ship to address, I can set up a different location, and I can put in who is actually placing this order for this particular ship to location. I can always change that when I actually place an order, but I want to specify that the tracking numbers and the order confirmation will get sent to the purchasing person at gmail.com. So that is my ship to location. Again, I can have multiple ship to locations for that base customer that gets all of the invoices. So in order to set up Paperless Office, then I have a More button in the top right corner, and I can go to Paperless Delivery Options, and I can select who should get the paperless documents when they place an order, as far as the order confirmation and also those tracking numbers. So if I pick my customer and my sales order document, I check the email box that I want to be able to email someone this information. I click on the email tab, and I'm only checking the box here to use the email address and data entry. So that means if I enter a sales order, whatever email I put on that sales order, that's who's going to get this order confirmation, and also the order confirmation basically. So I'm not sending it to the accounting department. This would work the same way on purchase order if you had a vendor and you only wanted to send the vendor and purchase order confirmation to someone in particular on that purchase order. So I then also want to look at my invoice. And now for my invoice, I'm checking that I want to be able to email the invoice. And this time I'm checking both boxes. I want to be able to send that invoice, which has those tracking numbers on it, to the person that placed the order on that sales order and data entry. And I also want that invoice to go to the customer email address, which is the accounting email. You might notice there's also additional email addresses you can add, so you can always send these documents to multiple people. But this is my basic setup here for today. So once I have everything configured for my customer and my ship to locations and my paperless office delivery, I can then go and enter a new sales order. So I go into sales order entry, I'm going to click my next sales order number, put in my customer, ABC, and you'll notice that automatically the email pops in down here, but you'll notice that it pops in based upon my ship to address. So if I picked a different ship to address, I would have a different email. So this particular order then is going to be emailed to the purchasing folks that are placing the order. I need to complete the order by entering what it is that I'm shipping them. And once I have my order entered, I can then print that or send that order to them. And again, it's going to go to this email address. So I pick whatever form code it is that I want to send them as an order confirmation. I want to be able to electronically deliver that to them. So when I hit print, then you'll notice that it'll create my PDF. And in this case, it's connecting to SMTP to go. That is the relay service that I'm using to send out my documents. And you'll notice it's going to purchasing@gmail.com. So it's going to the person that placed the order. And it tells me it was successful. There's also a detail box down here that I can click on. And it will show that, yes, indeed, this was emailed out on this day. It was successful. And if I want more detail as far as who this went to, there's an icon here that I can drill down on, and then it will show me that it went to purchasing@gmail.com. So I know that that email has now been sent out. That order confirmation went to the person that placed the order. When it then comes time to ship an invoice for that order, I can enter that shipment in through shipping data entry, which automatically creates my invoice, or I can go through invoice data entry. Either one of those will create the shipment information and the invoice. So I'm going to create a new batch here. I'm going to create a new invoice number. I'm going to pick the sales order that I just entered a few moments ago and say, yep, it's already ready to ship. You'll notice that on this invoice, it shows the ship to location and who placed the order. When I go to my lines, I'm going to say yes to ship the entire order. I have my totals. I can add any freight amounts down here that I'm going to charge. And then depending on what type of shipping integration you have, or if you don't have shipping integration, I can go into the tracking button, say that I'm shipping one package, and here's my tracking number, which will then print on the invoice that's being sent out. So if I accept all of that, I can either do the printing of that and emailing one by one, or I could do it as a batch once I have all of my shipments and invoices entered for the day. Since I'm only doing this as one example, I'm just going to hit my quick print button. And again, I'm going to pick my invoice format. I'm going to say that I want to electronically deliver that. I'm going to go ahead and click print. It connects me to my SMTP to go. It's showing both email addresses that it's now sending this document to. So both the person that placed the order will get a copy with all the tracking numbers on it, and the accounting department will get a copy of that invoice right away so they know that they can pay that. Again, I have a detail button here I can click on to see that it was successful. I can drill down on that and see the addresses that the emails were sent to. So now I have all of that taken care of. I would then finish up my invoicing process by posting those invoices. So I will do that quickly here. I'm sure everyone's familiar with this particular process. When I do click on print, it will generate a PDF copy of that in Paperless Office as well. So I can go ahead and update, and my daily transaction register I have set to automatically update. So now if I wanted to take this one step further, if I go into Paperless Office, there is a new feature that was added a couple of versions ago, Customer Electronic Delivery Inquiry. And so this is a great tool to check to see if everything's, again, if you had a whole batch of invoices and you just wanted to see if everything got delivered as it should have gotten delivered, you can come in here and say, okay, I want to check on those order confirmations I just sent out. My customer service department wants to know if they all got delivered, if they're successful. So I can search here based on success or failure. And I'll just hit refresh. And so here I see my document, my sales order got sent out. It was successful. Again, I have drill down capabilities that I can click on to see, okay, the date and the time that got sent, and it got sent to the purchasing@gmail.com. So I can do the same thing then for that invoice and click on refresh. Here's my invoice number 54. I can drill down on it and see that that invoice went to the person that placed the order as well as the accounting department. So that is a great tool if you haven't used the customer electronic delivery inquiry to see and make sure that everything is getting sent out properly. Now, as far as getting back to accounts receivable, full circle, how do you know if your system is set up properly without going into each of these customers one by one? Because I know a lot of systems through the years, people have done different things with paperless delivery, check different boxes, have different email addresses. So how do I make sure my system's nice and clean to work the way that I've shown you here? So one of the things I was able to do is to create a quick crystal report, and I added it to my custom report menu. And this crystal report then shows me how I have everything set up for all of my customers. So in this case, I have my ABC customer, and on my header tab, my main customer email account is accounting. That's great, wonderful. Then I have my order and my invoice. So my invoice here is set up for emailing. So both my invoices and email and orders are set up that I want to email them. But who am I going to email them to? So is the use customer email address box checked in my setups? For an invoice it is, for the order it is not. Do I want to use the email and data entry for both of these documents? Here I have yes and yes. So you could use this crystal report to find out if you have everything set up and configured the way you need to have it if you want to follow this particular procedure. So one final thing I wanted to point out in this process is that we do have this documented. We have just a whole lot of procedures documented, and all of these are available if you are on a standard subscription support level agreement, an SLA. All of these are available in a library of documents that all of our consultants have been putting together. So in this particular case, this document here just walks you through exactly what we just covered today. So it talks about and has screenshots of how to set this up. It shows how to set up the paperless office delivery options. It shows the screens for the sales order when you're entering the sales order and making sure that the email is populating from the ship to address location for who's placing the order. It shows making sure that you get the tracking numbers assigned on those invoices. Shows the verification screen and how to get back to that with the customer electronic delivery inquiry that we talked about. And then finally, it talks about this crystal report that you can create a crystal report based on the AR_customer documents file. So that is the file I used to generate this particular report. So with that, I hope that gives you all some ideas on how you can be more efficient with your overall communication process with your customers. And we will turn it back over to Tamara and Steve.
Yes, thank you so much, Steve. That was so great. I'll go back to sharing my screen. And so now we're going to go over Sage Intelligence.
Hello, everyone. This is Steve Pavel, senior consultant with DSD. And one of my specialties within our group is Sage Intelligence. So that's what I'm going to present here. On this slide, I'm going to go run through this real quick and get into the demo. So Sage Intelligence is extremely flexible. It is Excel based. So it brings all the power of Excel, to you when you want to create your custom reports. I'm going to show you like number 3 and number 4 in the demo, and I'm going to highlight that number 5 there. If you're already comfortable with Excel, I find that people pick up the Sage Intelligence quite quickly. Number 6, I'm going to mention this at the end as well, is that if you have a connector license, that allows you to create multi-company reports, including consolidated financial statements, and it also opens up the door to running or creating any type of report against any module. So I want everybody to understand, maybe some of you are using Sage Intelligence already. Even if you are, hopefully you might learn something or get some ideas during this demonstration. If you have an active Sage 100 subscription plan, whether or not you know it, you have a free Sage Intelligence Report Manager license. And that license enables you on one computer to create and run single company financial statements on that one computer. Of course, you can add more licenses, but everything I'm going to show you in this demonstration can be done with your free Sage Intelligence Report Manager license. Okay, I'm done with the slide, Tamara.
Perfect. All right, you should now have access. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Sage Intelligence is on the menu within Sage 100. If you're doing a single company financial statement, it's going to work similar to any other report. Whatever company that you're in, that's whose data you're going to see on your report. So in Sage Intelligence Reporting, you can run the report from the viewer or from the manager. I'm going to go ahead and launch the manager. Okay, and then as you see here, you can create your own folders. I created one called GL Reports, GL here, and I called it Financial Statement Package. I'm going to go ahead and get that running. So to run it, you highlight the report, click the Run button, and down at the bottom, it's showing you what it's doing. It's got the launch date and time, and it's also got a timer, showing you how long it's been running. This particular company, they have 666 GL accounts, and they got 23 years of history going all the way back to 2003. So it takes, with all that data, it's still taking less than 1 minute to run. So you see that it did finish up here. So during this demo, what I wanted to do, of course, everybody knows you can run financial statements, balance sheet, income statement within Sage 100 in the GL module under financial reports. And that's all well and good. But if you use your Sage Intelligence tool, that license, you can do a whole lot more than what you can do within Sage. So what I'm going to do is show you just some examples of saying, well, why should I use Sage Intelligence for financials instead of the Sage 100 financial reports? So during the first thing, first thing I wanted to mention is on the parameters here, this is a common design, you can import the reporting date that you want, okay? So if I want to say, yeah, I'm looking at December of 2025 financial statements, that's the date I have in here. And here's my balance sheet. And you can see that it's like, yeah, there's the December and so forth. Any year that's on file, what did I say that they go 23 years? So I'm going to go back to 2003, just as an example. All I do, I just change that date. Guess what? Now I'm seeing the financial statements for 2003. So very flexible. You can't do that with Sage. You'd have to, say, well, I ran that report. Now I got to close it. Now I'm going to put in a date and rerun the report for a different date. This is totally interactive, and you can see how quick it was. So I'll do 2024 here. All right, that quickly. Now I'm looking at 24. All right, so that's one definite advantage of using the Sage Intelligence. The other thing I'm going to show you is in Sage 100, there's no option to create and run a trend balance sheet. Okay, so this is an example, again, in Sage Intelligence that you see I was able to create a trend balance sheet. And I did a rolling 13 months, so this doesn't even have to be your calendar year. It's going to do the rolling 12, or in this case, 13 months. And you can have as many columns, as many periods as you want. Maybe you want a 24-month one or a 18 months and so forth. Okay, so another thing that you can do with Excel in Sage Intelligence, that is using Excel, is that you've got the Excel capability to group accounts. Okay, so you see here that I created some groups. So this is what I would call a condensed balance sheet. It's like, yeah, I see everything. I see the complete balance sheet like on one page here. All right, but if I wanted to expand out and say, well, I want to see the detail of my, I don't know, inventory account. Or let's say, do the cash account here. So here's all my different, with that grouping capability in Excel, just hit the plus, and then I'm seeing the detailed GL account by GL account. So that's another advantage of using the Sage Intelligence. You can use the Excel feature for groups. The other thing you can do in Excel, it's called conditional formatting, is that you can, control colors and so forth. So what I did, and that's based on a formula. So what I did is I said, well, to illustrate that, I'm just going to say whenever my cash increased from the previous period, I'm going to go ahead and use a background fill color of green. If the cash decreased, it's going to be orange. Okay. So that's another example of, yeah, you can't do that in Sage 100 financial reports, but you certainly can in Sage Intelligence with Excel. Okay. Of course, within Sage 100, you cannot, create charts of your, graphs with your financial statements, but you can do that in Excel. Okay. So I just, I put just as an example here, I took that balance sheet report and I said, I'm going to go ahead and make a, the 13 month graph here. And I'm going to pick just certain account groups, if you will, to say I want to be seeing in a graph my cash balance, my receivables, inventory, and payables. So again, another example of, can't do that in Sage 100, but you can do that using the graphing charting capabilities within Excel. Okay, the other thing, if you wanted to get a financial statement, your balance sheet and your income statement, but also you want to get your trial balance, okay? You saw it less than a minute. We ran that report, and it's like it's instantly here. I got a balance sheet, I got my chart, I've got income statement, and I got a trial balance, okay? All within, one click. And within Sage 100, you can, combine, like I want to run an income statement and balance sheet, but the trial balance is on a separate menu. So you could not, with one click, say I want to get a trial balance sheet and income statement on, with one click. But you can do that, as you can see here. And there is no Sage limit. This is basically an Excel limit. Like, well, how many of these tabs can I have? So you can have as many, I got a balance sheet trying to report the chart income statement, but maybe I want to do like a summarized income statement. Maybe I want to do a location. Maybe I want to do a cash flow statement. You can add as many report tabs as you want to do that. Okay, so the other thing I was going to show you on this income statement is that Sage Intelligence has the capability to use what's called trees, okay? And the way that the trees work is they're essentially filters. So let me get over here. And are you kidding me? I didn't, okay. Apparently I didn't save my, the last thing I did here. Okay, so what you can do, and I in my final revision, which I apparently am not looking at, I put that the filter, the tree filter drop down right on here, so I don't have to flip back and forth. But here's here's where you can choose, to say, I want to see the entire company. You do that, and then on your income statement, you can see that you're looking at the entire company, all departments. All right, if I go to the parameters here and I say, well, I want to look at rooms only. Okay, then you go back on your income statement and now you're seeing the numbers for rooms. And I got the same, grouping capability here. So you can interact. You can't do that with Sage 100 reports either, but you can interact with your income statement, to set up your reporting trees, which might be locations or profit centers or departments, etc. Okay, a couple other things I'm going to show you on the I typically add a control sheet. The purpose of this is to make sure that you've got integrity and consistency. Things like saying, do my total assets agree to the liabilities and equity, for that period? And this is the total of my GL accounts, and this is what the balance sheet said. They better match. The cash should be the same in both places. And so that's what this is. It's doing some, comparisons. Okay, the last thing I was going to show you is that within one click, okay, you can click this button. I'm going to click this button that says Send Now. And what that's doing is it is creating copies of all 4 tabs, the tabs that I specified. And it printed it not only to a PDFs, but also to Excel. So I'm going to close this up just to show you. All right, so here's my balance sheet. Okay, I'm going to flip that to my other screen. Okay, so there's the balance sheet. I've got a there's the chart. There's your income statement, and then there's the trial balance report. So I created these PDFs just with that one click, and put them to wherever you specify. I also told it, just to show you, go ahead and export that to Excel. All right, and now you can see that it's all in. I could create separate workbooks, but I set it up to just do one workbook with the 4 tabs that I wanted there. So if your accountant's asking, well, can you send me your trial balance in Excel, or your balance sheet or income statement, whatever, you can go ahead and click that button. It creates the Excel, and you can go ahead and send this off, and anybody who has Excel can open it just like any other Excel workbook. Okay, and then the last thing I was going to mention is, again, everything I just showed you, you can do with your free license, your free report manager license on one computer. There is so much more you can do if you add the connector module. Examples could be, I'll pull in the GL detail, and then you can look at the GL detail, filter that for whatever accounts you want to look at, for whatever periods you want to look at, and so forth. And you can use that also. The connector opens the door up for consolidated reporting, including consolidated financials, as well as reporting against any module. So some examples I've done is like getting your AP aging into Excel, your AR aging into Excel. I got an inventory aging into Excel, sales order aging, and so forth. I did like 1099, preparation and so forth. So that concludes my demo. So I'll go ahead and hand it back to Tamara for the question and answers.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. I'm gonna share back my screen. So we are now in the Q&A portion. So if you guys do have any questions, now is the perfect time to ask away. We did get a few questions. So someone mentioned that they had missed the first part and wanted to know if they'll have the recording. So yes, do not worry if you missed a section or if there's something that you want to revisit. The recording will be available to you guys in 24 hours. And again, if you guys don't get the recording, please feel free to interact with any of the emails that I've sent, or you want to email us directly at marketing@dsdinc.com. Someone did ask, if I don't see the Sage Intelligence on my menu, where can I find it?
Okay, so most likely it is installed. If you don't see something on the menu, typically that means that your user with the role that you're in, you don't have that turned on. Anything that you don't have access to according to role maintenance will not show up on your menu. So that's my best guess as to why you're not seeing it.
Yes, so exactly what Steve said. And if you are still struggling, we would suggest to reach out to Sage 100 support, and they'll be able to assist you. And then someone asked if we will be sending out the slides. We don't traditionally send the slides, but if you guys would absolutely love that, we most definitely can. So someone asked, if we have multiple users in our company, can everyone access it or only one user?
If that's referring to Sage Intelligence is licensed by the computer. So if you have just that one free, Sage Intelligence license, then you can license one computer. So anybody who logs into that computer will be able to run Sage Intelligence. But if somebody at a different computer wants to run Sage Intelligence, you would need to add another license.
Perfect. So we have a question for the intelligence report. Is there a guide to create a custom intelligence report? I would like to create one for our top 20 customers.
Yeah, there's really not a guide. I've done that. I'm more than happy to, schedule a little training session to get that set up and show you how to set that up. But been there, done that. That's a pretty easy request. But to answer the question, there's online help, but there's really not, manual to say, all right, here's exactly what you do to create a top 10 customers report.
Perfect. Yeah, Steve, I'll be sure to send you the contact information for the person who submitted this question so you can follow up.
Yeah, it's kind of like, Excel. It's like, is there an Excel, handout on how to do this report? It's like, no, it's a tool. So once you get educated with the tool, just like with crystal reports, if you know what you're doing, you can do whatever it is that you want to accomplish as long as you've been trained and know what you're doing.
Okay, we did another question. Does one computer mean one PC or one user for Sage Intelligence? Doesn't differ from where I logged in.
Yeah, it's unlike Sage 100 where, it's concurrent users. With Sage Intelligence, it's licensed by the name computer.
Perfect. Again, if you do have any questions, now is the perfect time before we close out. And again, if we do close out and you still have so many more questions, again, please feel free to interact with any of the emails and I'll be sure to direct you to the Sage 100 support team. So if that is it, we'll be ending the webinar. So thank you, everyone. That wraps up all the questions that we received today. If you think of any additional questions after the session, please feel free to reply to any of our emails again. We're super happy to help. And a huge thank you to our presenters, and thank you to all our attendees for your time and attention. If for any reason you don't receive the recording, please contact us and we'll make sure you guys get a copy. Again, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.